just in case you guys haven't noticed yet, I do a lot with small industrial. Well, no, it's not that big. It's kind of big. I do a lot of work with small industrial engines, like this one on the motorbike, on the mini bike. There's one on the go-kart. I've done a lot. I have a few of them, and some of them, if you're lucky, they have this little barrel nut type thing, which is fastened onto the throttle plate, and it's a little bit of hex bar with a screw in it, and it's clipped onto the back. And you put your throttle cable through there, tighten the screw down, and there's your throttle. Now, like I said, not all engines have them. This is the first one I have. This is the throttle linkage off the go-kart engine. As you can see, that's where the cable goes. There's nothing there. So what I had on it was a bolt and 2 washers, and you can even see on that washer, it's kind of worn down. That's where the cable's been. And yes, so is that one. So those 2 are on there like that, and then a nut on top. And as you may have figured by now, the cable was just sandwiched between the 2 washers like that. Something like that. And yeah, it's not real safe, nor is it desirable. Another way to do it is to use something like this off a bicycle. It's just a bolt with a round head, usually. There's a hole through it, and the cable slides through that hole. Problem number 1 with this is that it needs to be clamped. It needs to go in like that. So the nut is still underneath. It's still a pain in the butt to get to. Because if you feed that through from the bottom, yeah, I'm trying to do all this one-handed. You feed it through from the bottom, you see you can't even see that on camera. You haven't got the entire hole. The whole hole, that works. So you've only got about 2/3, 3/4 of the hole at most. And trying to get the cable through there is a nightmare. And then of course you've got to get a washer on there, you've got to get a nut on there, then you've got to tighten it up while all that stays still. So I came up with a solution. And it looks something like this. That is simply what they call a coupler nut. And there's a screw underneath it, and a set screw in the top. Now I made this one. I need another one obviously for the go-kart, so I'm going to run you guys through and show you how I did it. So first thing we need to do is drill a hole across the coupler nut. Before we drill the hole, we need to know where to drill it, obviously, don't we? So these things are tiny. Look at the size of that. Now, that's an M6. So you can guess, that's probably about 6 or 7 millimeters long. Let's find out. It's exactly 6 millimeters long. Look at that. Alright, so now we know that the hole has to go in about 6 millimeters down if we want it to sit. So when it's tightened up, it sits flush with the top of the... Geez, these things are hard to work with. There we go. So If we get it so it sits about there, like that, that means that we're going to go in, we're going to drill our hole about, well, we're going to drill our hole at 6mm, because once you put the cable in, it'll sit out a bit anyway. And 6mm will be the centre of the hole, which means the top end of the hole will be, well, 5mm. So the first thing we need to do then is mark it. So there's 6mm. Yeah, well, that didn't work. I actually hate marking things with calipers. I prefer dividers. But there we go, there's a mark on it. Now we'll get our centre punch. I'm going to move out to the edge of the bench here. Sorry, it's a bit, the view's a bit skewed there, but I hope that worked. No, it didn't. Let's try that again. That looks more like it. Alright, here we go. Now, the hardest part about this is holding this in the vise, because it needs to sit flat so you can drill across the flats. So basically what I've done is I've filled up the back here, and then got a 10mm round square stock so that it sits flat, so that when it's drilled it's going to go straight through the centre. Well, that's the plan anyway. And of course on the other end I've got an 11mm, because this across the flats is just over 11mm. If you put a 10mm down here, well, it's going to skew. So you want to have sort of the same distance at both ends, the same gap, so it holds down firm. See, that's still not holding down firm, but it's firm enough. Let's go. I'm using a 2mm bit here. You can make it as big or as small as you like. One. Push that out of the way a bit, so it doesn't drill through into it. Being such a small bit, I just let the drill do the work then. I put very little pressure on the quill. Okay, now I'm just going to flip it over, because that now has a burr on it. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm just going to touch it with a 3mm, just to take that burr and any edge off. Just touch it. I might do that side too. Although I started with that on this side, it wasn't quite that deep, so I'm just going to touch it again. There we go. It does two things. It stops you cutting your fingers, and it makes it a lot easier to thread the eventual cable through it. So just boom, straight through. It's not going through the second because there's a bit of a burr there, and the end of the cable's just a tiny little bit frayed. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So the next step, just in case anyone can't guess yet, I'm going to cut it down. Now I'm going to do this on my lathe because I can, but if you're handy with a grinder, it's not that difficult. The hardest part is holding it. But this is currently, this little coupler nut here is currently 18 millimeters. So we don't want it that long. So we're going to cut about 6 millimeters off it. So it's going to come down to about 12. About there. Alright, now, there it is, cut down. So now we need to figure out how much we need to take off this, so it'll work in this. So how do we figure out how much we need to take off the bolt? Well, that's kind of easy. First thing, that's where we need it, alright? So we measure the depth there, which is 1.8 millimeters. Then we take this off. Screw that back in until it's at 1.8 millimeters. That's spot on 1.8 millimeters. Yeah, it's upside down, but it's 1.81 millimeters. Okay. Now we measure this gap here. Which is 1.5 mil. Now take a piece of wire that's close enough to the size of the hole. Poke that through there. And when we screw that up just lightly, there we go, that's bottomed out on that wire. And now we measure this gap. This is 7.2 millimeters. Subtract the 1.5 millimeters, which gives us 5.8, 5.7 millimeters. That's how much we need to take off. Just about done to the depth that you want. Stop, because the end of that thread is going to be nice and ugly. That was nice and ugly, not nice and snuggly. See, I'm going to have trouble getting that nut off. See, that's rather tight. Why? Because the thread's all jacked up. You see all that? This here? You need to get rid of that, because there's no way you're going to screw that into a thread looking like that. So, as I said, stop, take the nut, washers, whatever, off, and we're going to gently hit that on the wire brush. Was just enough, just to give it that clean thread, start of the thread anyway. Okay, screw on there. Let's get that on there to make it easier. Into there, the piece of wire's still there. And now it doesn't want to screw in. There it goes. Probably a bit of a bird thread on that coupler nut. Yeah, that could be a little bit looser. There we go. Now it's not quite bottomed out on that wire, but that makes little to no difference. Now, the only thing left to do is to drop a Loctite. There we go, whoops. Screw that back in there till it's at just the right tension. That's about right there, because if I tighten it up anymore, it's going to grab. So that's about perfect. Leave it alone overnight, let that dry, and then tomorrow we can put it all back together. Here we are, it's dried. Now, when I went and picked it up, this wouldn't move, so obviously some of the Loctite had got in and locked itself to the plate, and that was easy. I just put a 10mm spanner on it and just freed it up, and now it's nice and free. Now I'll put it back on. Thread that through there. Now just hold that with a 10mm spanner. Coming from the other side. There we go. That in there. Tighten that down. Oh. And there we go. Too tight still.